Hi, everyone. This is Steve Dellasan, and welcome to this week's edition of CEOs You Should Know. I'm thrilled to be joined by Miles and Sebastian, the co-founders and co-CEOs of Claim. Guys, thanks for being here today.
Thanks,
Thank you
Steve.
for having us.
We're excited to jump in to learn more about both of you, and of course, learn more about Claim. So I know that you both had been building businesses since your early teens. What were some of those first ventures that you launched, and what did those experiences teach you about being an entrepreneur?
I think I could take this.
Yeah.
I started business a little bit earlier than Sebastian. My first few businesses were all drop shipping businesses. I think that's pretty common amongst our generation that a lot of the entrepreneurs are starting in drop shipping. I probably have launched like 15 or more drop shipping stores since I was 12 years old. And the majority of those failed horribly. Some of them did maybe a few $100s in sales. But I think the biggest lesson I learned is just grit. I kept failing, but kept doing it over and over and over again. And I think that for most entrepreneurs, if you just keep going, no matter how many times you fail, as cliche as it sounds, the longer you try, volume negates luck. And I think eventually you'll be able to figure something out.
It's great advice. I know you made the decision at 22 to kind of drop everything and move across the country. We just talked about this before we jumped on, right? To really go all in on Claim. So tell us a little bit about Claim and what inspired you to take that risk.
I think we have a good story for why Claim came about, and it starts actually a few years back before we even started Claim. So Miles and I were hometown friends, high school buddies, and I had been scrolling on my feed, and I got an ad for if you use this dating app called Bumble, you can be owed compensation. Sent it around all my buddies because at the time we all had like random dating apps, and no one filled out the form. No one really bought it. Everyone kind of thought it was maybe a scam or something, a phishing thing. I filled it out. I'm like, whatever. I'll put my name, email, phone number. Called it a day. Fast forward a year later, I checked my email. I got like a direct deposit for $700. I'm like, oh wow, that was cool.
Nice.
And I go to all my buddies. They're all like, oh, I didn't fill it out. I wish I filled it out. And it kind of validated that like there's so many little opportunities like this to make this money from these class action lawsuits, mass torts, stuff like that. But people either think it's not enough money for their time, or it's a little suspicious putting your information on some random lawyer's outdated website.
Mm-hmm.
So both of those two factors combined make it so that the average consumer is disincentivized to actually go and fill these things out. And around that same time, maybe 6 months after that, we came up with the idea of Claim, making a platform to help people find these lawsuits. I remembered that story of my friends, and I was like, this is perfect. Like the market actually really needs this. Basically a trusted platform where every lawsuit is aggregated based on our own like background research that we do on each lawsuit. And we
Make sure
custom
it's legit
make sure
before
it's
someone else
legit.
signs
We
up.
match you up to brands that you've probably used in the past. And you can come in and just check all the different lawsuits on the site at once. So that was the idea. And then we started marketing it. You want to tell them that part?
Yeah, so the way we started marketing it originally was me and Sebastian just got on TikTok and started posting about it. We actually like to validate most of our ideas posting ourselves first. And so Sebastian posted his first video, and it did like 400,000 views overnight. And then
Very
I
cool.
posted one, went viral. I posted like 4 more. They all went viral, and we're like, okay, well,
We're on to something.
there's product market fit
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
People really want the product.
People liked the idea.
And so we just went from there.
Very cool. I know you mentioned that you had some failed businesses, right? And
Yeah.
some that weren't a success. Looking back, how did those failures shape the way you approach now with Claim?
Yeah, so I think the failures shaped my approach in the sense that I think I took a lesson from each of those. So for the majority of them, I think I rushed through the businesses. I wouldn't really put full time into building a brand and trying to actually scale it out. Versus my first success, which was one e-commerce brand, I took those lessons as well because it was partly a failure. I kind of cheated my way through it and didn't really stick it through. And I think with Claim, I finally like fully committed to something and like burned all the bridges. And I think that was like the biggest thing that led to the success with Claim is that I was all in and I had no other option, and that I kind of like left the traditional path behind at that point. It was either I make it or my parents are pissed at me. So
Yeah.
Hopefully it makes it.
I think that on my end, probably 2 big takeaways from my failed businesses. Number one is I was always a solo founder. So I started, my background's all marketing. So around 18, I had my own marketing agency right out of high school. Did a bunch of other different social media marketing ventures around that space.
Sure.
Always a solo founder. And the first project that really went off was when I had a business partner. So I think that's a massive takeaway for me, is that I realized that you can only do so much alone.
Yep.
So Claim and our success was because I think we partnered up. I think number two, it's choosing what to work on.
Mm-hmm.
I think that my previous ventures before Claim were pretty low ceilings and really high friction to get started up. So like running a marketing agency and working with local blue collar sort of roofers and landscapers, it's you can only make so much and it's really hard to sell them. Whereas Claim, it sells itself, and with the new with software developers, people can build apps and websites so much easier now. So I
Sure.
think that we chose the right thing to build. So I think
Yeah.
working with someone and choosing the right thing, I think those are the two
Yeah,
takeaways.
piggybacking off the working with someone. I know you
Yeah.
mentioned earlier you guys are like lifelong friends
Yeah.
now, and now obviously business partners and co-CEOs of it. How do you split up the responsibilities and like who's responsible for what?
Yeah, so co-CEOs, it's quite a funny term. When we tell most people that we kind of split everything evenly, they think it's a little bit weird. Most businesses have like one CEO, one guy who runs the growth, one guy who runs the product. But for us, we've just found most success from the start that we evenly split stuff up. I think that in a dynamic where people are like arguing over who does more, it won't work for most people.
Mhm.
But for us, we kind of just pick up the slack where it needs to get picked up. So if one day one of us is focused more on a product issue and there's something that needs to get done on growth, the other one just kind of comes in without asking and picks up the slack. So that's kind of how we handle things. It's on a needs to get done basis. Whatever needs to get done that day, one of us will take it over. We're both pretty talented in all fronts, so it doesn't hurt the business at all, so it works out well.
Sure.
Yeah, I think we also kind of naturally gravitate toward our strengths, and we don't really push back on each other when we do that. So like Miles is very naturally more of a people person, making new partnerships, that sort of thing, taking the bigger calls. So he kind of tends to gravitate towards that. I kind of gravitate more toward systems and operations, setting up, how do we bring in a lot of content creators? How do we bring in more engineers? How do we bring that sort of stuff? So that's probably how we split
Great.
it up.
You guys balance each other's
Yeah.
out, each
Good
of your strengths
balance.
out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I know we talked a little bit about when you first launched it. It was the TikTok approach, and like you just mentioned, obviously, like working with creators. How has that strategy made you guys different than other apps or other people within the legal space?
It's a good question. I think that we do a good job of making it clear that our platform is more for just kind of just general discovery, and we let the law firms do what they do best on the legal side, right? So a lot of these law firms, there's just a lot of restrictions around like marketing in the legal space, right?
Sure.
So it's really tough to kind of do a marketing angle in the legal space, a viral angle in the legal space. So that's why as like a discovery platform, we had
Yeah.
that luxury to be able to kind of be more consumer facing and do some more like social media, fun social media stuff like that.
I think what makes it a lot better for us as well is in an industry like the legal space, it's kind of hard to trust these big law companies. Like you don't really see a face to them most of
Totally.
the time. And that's part of our whole business proposition is that it's hard to know what you can trust and what lawsuit you should go file. And so when you have creator-led marketing and you have faces of people who you can see and it's someone who kind of looks like you is the same age, it's a lot easier to trust that
Sure.
and then want to go through and actually file for whatever lawsuit it is. So I think that's something that's helped us a lot, and it's different in the legal industry.
Yeah, when you think of like class action lawsuit commercials, it's like
Yep.
that old school TV 1-800 number that they
Mhm.
just show a bunch of stock images of. So
Yep.
I completely understand that perspective.
Yeah.
It was an industry that needed innovation. So
How do you guys feel like you're going to continue to modernize, obviously, what was kind of like an outdated industry?
I think the goal is to find some sort of solution where we can. Our goal has always been to decrease the friction from like identifying something you might qualify for and submitting the claim. So right now that means we're basically notifying you of these lawsuits, and then we're linking you right to the right source, right?
Sure.
The credible source. So the goal is to eventually one day, and we've tested this before, is like how can we sort of prepackage your information from your previous submissions, and then with your authentication, submit it for you, right?
Mhm.
That's the goal. There's a lot of legal hurdles with that, but I think that's the end goal where you can as close as possible to just automating filling all these things out.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that the best way to have it in a long-term vision is you don't even need to go look for them. You just sign up. We know all your transactions, whatever it may be, and then we're able to go and submit everything for you.
You're going to help them moving forward. Like once you get their permission, like, hey, if there's a new class action suit that makes sense for you guys, like we'll automatically sign you up. You don't have to worry about keep coming back here and clicking off on it. Is that like kind of like the long term?
Yeah. Also, just like with the advent of like AI agents, internally, I'm looking at like building my own agent that will just fill out everything with my information. So maybe like how can we introduce that to the consumer if they're interested in something like that too?
Sure.
It's a cool angle.
That makes sense. I know you just mentioned AI. What other technologies, or how are you going to lean into AI even more, knowing that like the consumer behavior has always been kind of hesitant, as you mentioned earlier, to sign up for class action lawsuits? Like, what is your thought process on like advancing that even more through technology?
I would say a lot of our product is being like improved with AI. I would say that.
Yeah, I think our team moves faster with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like every big
For
company
sure.
nowadays is becoming AI native. So I don't know if necessarily we're going to incorporate AI too much into our vision,
Mm-hmm.
but as a company, we definitely encourage that all the employees use AI. We want to move as fast as possible. So
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that in the beginning and even now, obviously being like a startup, you have long days, right? Like 14-hour days that have been focused entirely on building the company. What kept you motivated during those like longer stretches in the very, very early stages of the startup?
I think Miles kind of touched on it. We kind of just burned the boats. I think like it's kind of our only like choice is to push forward because we don't have. I don't think we have much to fall back on. I mean, I like took a gap year off school. I'm pretty much dropped out of school, so no internships, no experience, no nothing. I'm kind of all in on
Yeah.
consumer applications, consumer software. So that's a big reason, a big motivator. Is this is my one shot, or my one option is to do well here. Yeah. What else?
I'd say the same thing. Yeah, we kind of burned all the bridges. We have no real option but to succeed. And I also think that we love what we do.
Yeah, that's
And
important.
if you love what you do, it's
100%.
not as hard to go in and do a 14-hour day. So
That's a solid motivation.
makes it a lot
Yeah.
easier.
Yeah. So far with the company, what has been one of the biggest challenges or hurdles you guys have had, and how did you overcome it, and what were you guys able to learn from that?
I think I can answer this. I think so far, one of the biggest hurdles has been trust in the legal space, not on the consumer facing side, but on the business facing side. None of these law firms or settlement administrators or any of these companies expect to pick up the phone or answer an email and see some 22-year-old guys talking to them. They don't really like that. It's not been standard in the industry. And so early on, it led to a lot of difficulty building trust
Sure.
with these administrators and with these law firms. But the solution to it and the way we overcame it was just finding people who were willing to speak to younger founders. And then once we built up trust with them, it was easier to go to other people and be like, hey, look, it's not just us
Here's a
now.
success. Yeah.
Here's a success. These people trusted us. It worked out well for them. So you guys should be able to trust us as well. So it's just, if they trust their peers, then it's easier to trust us.
It's a good one. For anyone tuning in, obviously you guys are inspiring, right? You're at a young age, you're taking this big risk, you're going all in on this new venture. What if someone was tuning in that's thinking about starting their own startup, or they want to be an entrepreneur and they're at a very young age? What advice would you give them?
I think you have to think very deeply about the project you choose. Like I already kind of touched on this, but I think that like it's what you decide to work on. I'm a big advocate for like the thinking deeply about an idea before you actually jump into it. Because if I choose to work on, like, we have a lot of friends who will work on just sort of smaller market projects. So
Sure.
you'll work on something where it's like, for example, like a running app for busy moms. That's cool. That could
Very
work.
niche, yeah.
It's niche.
Yeah.
And it's also not novel. Like when you talk about it, people won't be like, "Wow, that's amazing." Maybe some moms will, but like right, but like the average
Yeah.
person, maybe not so much. So I think that choosing something that has the ability to have massive reach and also to have a really big impact on people's lives, like make them hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's like the big thing is like just choosing what you work on really carefully.
Yeah, and it's long term, right? Like
Mhm.
class action lawsuits aren't going away anytime soon,
Yeah.
right? They're going to continue to do it. So it's not like a fad. It's not a trend. It's something that is going to be for a long time, and not just
Absolutely.
like the short term.
Yeah.
Miles, what about you?
I think that I would say for most people, my advice is entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. We live in an era where it seems like every single person wants to be an entrepreneur. It's kind of a cool term. Everybody wants to be
Yeah.
a founder, a CEO. And my honest advice is that if you are going to do it, know that it's going to be the hardest thing ever. And if you're not going to dedicate your life to it and kind of leave no other option but to succeed, it's probably not going to work out. So if that doesn't sound like you, make that you. And if
Yeah.
you're not going to make that you, then I wouldn't go down the path of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, sometimes people don't realize all the work behind the scenes, and they just see like the end result, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And I think what you said earlier, I think is the most important. You got to love what you do. You have to be fully invested in whatever idea you have and give it your all.
Exactly.
So I know we covered a lot. We covered some of the stuff that's next, but is there any other exciting developments or stuff we could look forward to in the future around Claim that you want everyone to know about?
I think just lots of new lawsuits getting pushed out. So there should be some exciting lawsuits coming soon.
Yeah.
We like to do a lot of stuff that hits a larger market where more people can file for it. So we got a lot of fun lawsuits. I mean, even right now we got social media lawsuits that a lot of people qualify for. So
Very cool.
lots
Yeah.
more of that.
If there was one thing you want everyone tuning in to be able to take away of what the mission is for Claim, what would that be?
I think that the mission for Claim is that, well, okay, I can kind of tell a story about this.
Yeah.
So when we were building Claim, we found that I might be quoting this wrong, but I'm pretty sure the FTC put out a report in 2023 that something like 93% of class action lawsuits go unclaimed, something like that, like the total payout amount.
Wild.
And that money either goes back to companies or it goes to charities or something like that. So the consumers end up not receiving the money a lot of the time. So our goal is just to get that number as low as possible. I know in 2026, it was the highest recorded year in American history for just total lump payouts for class action lawsuits. And we just want to we don't want to necessarily have more class action lawsuits, but we want, when those lawsuits happen, that the consumers go and just claim the money that they're owed, right? This is like someone who was negatively affected from, a data breach or a unfair algorithm or, any of these things. So we just want to make sure that those people get paid out. That's the goal of Claim.
Awesome. Well, super impressive, guys. You should feel very proud of it. Definitely a very inspiring story. If someone is tuning in and they want to sign up for Claim and they want to check out all those class action lawsuits that are out there, what should they do?
They should look us up on Google.
Okay.
You look up claimmoney.com. You'll find our website and you can go through the onboarding, see what lawsuits you qualify for, what you might have missed out on in the past, and then get started on claiming the money.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well, I'm definitely going to check it out. Thank you both for
Awesome.
for coming in. Really appreciate you sharing your story, the background, the thought process, and obviously all the new exciting developments.
Absolutely. Thank you
man.
so
It's been
much.
fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for tuning in for this week. Tune in next week for next week's edition of CEOs You Should Know.